So let's talk about this music, and in particular, the bill that is put forth in the legislature. It passed the Senate, it's waiting to pass the Assembly, and of course, be signed by the governor. But this bill was being promoted, of all places, at Summer Jam.
Right, the one about banning lyrics from criminal trials.
Right, and some controversy. Obviously, hip hop artists are pushing for it, and I think there's good reason to push for it, because you do see sometimes in society, not just in the context of trials, but in society, hip hop lyrics being viewed in too much of a literal sense, I think, as compared to other forms of expression. And sometimes people think what you say on a song incriminates you, or it says something about you, whether it could just be you just telling the story or what have you. We talked about this before. If someone was in a movie or in a play saying something a little crazy, no one would bat an eye. But if it's in a rap song, all of a sudden it means that you're a terrible person. So I think there's something to that idea.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. At the same time, though, you got to be fair. A lot of the artists represent what they rhyme about as reality, as their reality. So, it kind of says, it's like, how can you have both ways, I guess? I'm the realist. This is everything I rhyme about. My whole life is this. Wait. No, I didn't mean that.
Well, what if you said you were the realist in a song, but that also is part of your creative expression?
Right. No, absolutely. I think it comes down to some point the artist being kind of honest as well. I mean, look, it's a rap song. Even the persona of being the realist and being this hardcore, whatever I'm representing is part of it. Not sell that as the real me. This is maybe a character that I'm playing, or this is the role that it is. So
it should be a case-by-case basis based on how the artist portrays himself or herself in song or in the public.
It could be, because you can't tell. There's not going to be a blanket way of artist expression. Some will rap or deliver exclusively, real topics of their lives, and some will play a character. We've seen lots of people play characters. Well,
what this does, this particular bill, is it creates a presumption against introducing it in evidence. It doesn't say that it can never be used, but they're going to default to the position of it not being used unless there's a showing that it really needs to come in. And they lay out 4 factors here. There needs to be a showing by clear and convincing evidence that the lyrics or the creative expression is literal rather than figurative or fictional, whether there's a strong factual nexus between the creative expression and specific facts of the crime alleged, whether there's relevance to an issue, which is always the case, I don't know why that's in there, whether there's distinct probative value not provided by other admissible evidence. So that one is interesting. In other words, you don't have other evidence that could prove what you're trying to prove. You need the lyrics to make your case.
Yeah, I don't know if you, I think you would need the evidence instead of the lyrics, because the lyrics could just be made up. It could be whatever rhymes.
But in order to bring in the lyrics, you have to be able to prove that whatever you're trying to prove with these particular lyrics can't be proven completely without the lyrics.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Doesn't seem like that should be the case. I mean, because again, the lyrics could just be made up.
Well, that's also part of what the test is here, right? They have to be literal rather than figurative or fictional. But how do you really prove that? That's, it creates this whole hearing process before the judge, so there's no jury to consider it, and the court has to consider whether these factors were met. Did you prove that this is literal expression? I guess that goes back to what you were talking about earlier. Has the artist made statements to that effect? Everything I talk about is literal or not. I guess that would all be relevant in this hearing. Something else that has become a point of contention is it's not only about rap lyrics. It says evidence of a defendant's creative or artistic expression. And so that always raises the issue. Where is the line? When does something become creative or artistic? It's easy to see in a song or a painting or something. What if it's just someone writing something online, like a manifesto, but there's some flowery language in there? What if there's some rhymes in there? What if they do something that makes it look like it's creative, but it really is speaking to something devious, maybe a criminal mind state?
Yeah, I mean, think that's where you're going to have other evidence come into play. You can't just rely on one thing, and it would be unfair to, because of that creative expression. And going to rap lyrics. I think the unfair thing is that, I mean, again, a lot of rappers give that persona that this is what's real, this is what we rhyme about. But there is also an unfair factor that rappers are looked at as, oh, this can be evidence, this can be real stuff here. And other, like you said before, movies and all this, that, they're not looked at in that same way.
It's a common thing when someone who happens to rap as a criminal defendant, they're always pulling up their lyrics and trying to use them against the defendant on the trial. Is that really fair? They don't really do that in other forms of media. No,
they don't. I think, yeah, there is a discriminatory factor there. And, ultimately there is an anti-Blackness factor there as well. So, and it's not new. We've seen it for decades, since,
Sure.
beginnings of rap. The whole visceral reaction to rap becoming a medium has always been played a part.
Martin, feel free to jump in. If you don't want to comment, no need to, but
Yeah, no. I'm just listening to you guys on it. Yeah. I think some of it is true, though. There has to be, some form also of accountability on the expressions you're taking and the lyrics you're using, especially if, Jay, to your point, at some point you're saying, well, yeah, this is my life, right? Like when we talk about, maybe they're saying I'm expressing how my life used to be, right? Or the things I used to do, and then try and turn it into a positive, but if, I think if you're talking about, how you're actively living today, right? And that's leading into certain type of crimes, then you should understand that there's a possibility that that's going to probably come up in a case against you in the future, right? And if that's really the life you're about, then, I guess that's really your choice, right? That you want to be about that life. But these days, there's a lot of other options, right? And we've seen the cases of tons of rappers out there that, went from, the street life into rapping and now into successful other avenues and businesses and all type, even within music, right? But I think, people just have to understand, in everything we do, we still have to have some accountability. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think one of the differences in rappers that are, presenting these type of lyrics and versus actors in movies, Brad Pitt doesn't come out and be like, or Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't come out and be like, no, I really go out and shoot people. Like, I don't, like, it's understood that this is a character that they're playing. So
right.
I think that's one of the
I've had songs where I was clearly playing a character and some people didn't take it that way because they thought that this was hip hop. Hip hop's supposed to be real, right? There's no sophistication in the medium. It's just everything straightforward because you can't possibly be very creative. It's rap. Some people think that way.
Right. No, and absolutely. I mean, I remember, what was it? In one of the campaigns, someone had dug into some of the old lyrics, and it wasn't even your lyrics. They were EJ's lyrics. And he was talking about punching cops. But the character he was rapping from was of a prisoner in jail and his feelings on being in that position.
And then in that same verse, he actually talks about how wrong he was and he kind of learned the lesson. So it was a cautionary tale.
Right.
They want to take a little piece of it and
say, oh, Scala's with this. Right. Scala's with this guy that's advocating for violence against cops. It's like, no, are you listening? And Jay-Z's line, do you fools listen to music or do you just skim through it?
Right. Now, also, of course, people will bring up the First Amendment in this and say, well, you have freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So what you say creatively should not be used against you by the government in any capacity. And there's something to that as well. Now, if I was a lawyer now, even without this new bill, if it became law, just under the current law, if I was a criminal defense lawyer, which I don't practice criminal defense, but if that was my client, I would make the argument of relevance now. And I would say, my client does, like, let's say I had someone who has some rap lyrics out there, but he didn't live that life. I would say he has indicated, he's shown, demonstrated who he really is. And this is not that. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to prejudice the jury with these crazy lyrics, but that prejudice, whatever you're trying to prove here, whatever probative value the lyrics have is substantially outweighed by the amount of prejudice that you're going to give the jury. And that's an argument that you can make even today. With this, we'll take it a step further and just presume that those lyrics can't come in unless the other side shows they really, really, really need to.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll see how that plays out. It's interesting that it played out at Summer Jam, but I guess, I don't know how Summer Jam gets political or on things. It's kind of a first.
It's good. It's always good to combine entertainment with activism or politics or whatever it is. I think that's a good thing.
All I know is apparently New York, there's a new king of New York, and some guy named Fivio Foreign had crowned himself king of New York at Summer Jam. I've never heard of the guy, so
I know of him from Nas's album a couple albums ago, King's Disease.
Oh, okay.